Today we are going to be focusing on conceptualization and an understanding of components of the research proposal. I understand that this class, it's an honors class, so you would bear with me if I do over explain things. It's just for us to understand certain structures and certain components of the research proposal. I know that you are given topics as at your level, and then from that topic you must choose the one that you're going to write on. Now, the most important thing here is look at that topic, read it, understand it, and from that topic ask yourself what is what are the component, or what is one thing that is standing out for you to say this is my title. For instance, topic is broad, title is specific. So a topic can be anything around COVID-19. COVID-19 can be a topic, COVID-19 in 2021, the effects of COVID-19 2021. But then you are going to look for a specific in that COVID topic, the effects of it in 2021. Then you say to yourself, okay, my interest is in the effects of COVID on high school learners in 2021. You see now, there's a difference between the broad topic of effects of COVID in 2021 to a specific, the effects of COVID on the high school learners. So you are now have identified your population, you have identified the focus of your study. So that's where the title and the topic differ. Topic is broad, title comes from your topic. And of course, we will use literature to help us to justify our research problem. So the structure, there is introduction, and in some instances, people will write introduction and background. I prefer to have the two separate because introduction, this is where now you are going to give us an entry, general entry about what you are going to tell us, or what you're going to report, or what you're going to write about. What are you attempting to inform us as your readers about the rationale behind your work? You can justify why your work is essential component of the research. There are no word strict limit. Unlike in the abstract, as you see abstract of articles, but please try to make it as concise as possible. Keep it short. Define what your problem is, and keep it coherent and organized. Let it flow. Background of your study speaks to you now, setting the scene. This is where you are telling us where you are coming from. You hint on the why, the importance of your work. It helps you in the background to create context and to highlight work and how it fits within the previous research. What is the status quo? What is it that is already known about your problem? That is your title. The definition that might be important to your topic. So it allows you to give us your historical narrative, give us the reasons why a researcher wants to undertake this study. And like I said, some would supervisors would prefer to say background, introduction and background. That is fine, but remember, background introduction is about setting the scene, telling us what's your problem. The background is where does your problem emanate? Where does it come from? What do we know about the problem? Like you'll hear in the news, they say they are doing a background check on so and so. So and so is known, was introduced. Now you need to do the background about so and so. There are no word strict limit. However, please try to make it concise as well. Keep it to about 1.5 pages. Tips to write your background. Begin the section with clear description. Tell us about the history of the problem. So be specific. Again, coherency is very important, and refer to relevant literature and policy, because you cannot tell us at the background without referring to literature, without referring to policies, if it is about policy, your topic. Remember, you are explaining or highlighting the factors that led to the problem. Comprise the problem and historical significance relative to the problem. We said our topic was the effects of COVID in 2021, and we said our title was the effects of COVID on high school learners. Of course, we know now the context is in 2021. Now, what are the problem that I'm highlighting and that I'm going to speak to? The learners did not go to school anymore, and we know the effects of not attending school religiously or regularly as we are used to. We know the problems we had with internet, and we know the problem of a poor internet connectivity or broadband in South Africa, and all of those, you see, they help you to set the problem. They help you to give us where you are going with your study. Again, literature review. Remember, you cannot do research without literature review. We will cover that. We'll come to this later because it's very important. This literature review covers phenomena of your study. We said it's COVID-19, the theory that you're going to use to understand your study, or the conceptualization of that theory. We get students who get confused in terms of the difference between conceptual framework or theoretical framework. Literature helps us to understand what this is. Literature helps us to pinpoint and to pin the theories or the conceptualized theories for our studies. For instance, you can say that, no, I used white paper. I'm going to use Zono's provisional development. I'm going to use child development by Skinner, or any other theory, in your field, be it business. I'm sure you have theories of business that you do there, and so forth and so forth. Important. Theoretical framework, it's when you take the entire theory to understand your study. Conceptual framework is when you take certain parts of a theory to only focus on them. Or when you have two concepts from two different theories, it can be two concepts from one theory. At the end, remember, for you to have theoretical, you use the entire theory. You use two theories. You can speak to I use two theories in my study, but it must be the complete theories. If you take two concepts from two theories, you have conceptualized the framework for your study, or three, or so and so. The main matter is theory. You have to use it in its entirety. Should you take any part? Should you take more than one and not use the entire? Should you take two or join? We are talking conceptualizing. The motivation of your study. Here is an issue of, are we referring to what motivates you or what motivates the study? Important. Why are you doing this study? And who is the target for your study? Why are you doing the study? And who is the target for your study? Motivation speaks to you. Rationale speaks to your study. I prefer we use the rationale of your study because it talks to the logic for doing the study. Most of the time, when students talk to the motivation of the study, they will be talking about themselves. I decided to do this because when I grew up, my family was, and then I started to see. That's not what we're looking for here. Or that's not what the presentation, at least that we're expecting. Hence, I'm asking for you to speak to the rationale, because the rationale assists you to focus on the reasoning behind the decision for doing something, not the motivation that I felt it was a good thing to do. No, it's not about what motivates you, what you feel. It's about the reason for doing it. It will contribute something to helping the society to solve the problems around water. The reason for doing that decision. Why are you proposing to do this? What is the reason for doing it? Getting my honors degree, it's not the reason for doing your study or for doing this research. It's the topic that we were given, so therefore I came up with the title. It's not the reason for doing it. You need to come up with something that you're going to sell. That's why we're talking about the significance of the study. So no word strict limit. However, it also should not be around between 1 and then 1.5 pages. If you can see now, we are already on 3 to 3.5 pages. And remember, proposal must not be long. I know that at times, certain colleges, they will tell you that it must be around 20 pages. That's fine, but it cannot be 30, 60, 40 pages. It's a proposal. Purpose of the study, the next section. Here, it is very important to distinguish between a research purpose and the aim of the study. So the purpose indicates the reason, rationale again, the reason for conducting it, not the feeling for conducting it, the reason for conducting it, conducting your study. So you can start by saying my purpose, for instance, was to tap your wife's or your boyfriend's phone, right? Why did you do that? Why did you tap your husband's phone, your wife's phone, or your children's phone? Because you wanted to achieve something, didn't you? You tapped it because you wanted to achieve something. What is that you wanted to achieve? You wanted to listen or overhear the conversation because your kids have been complaining that there's somebody who is stalking them. Your husband, your wife, they're complaining about something. So the police have tapped the phones because they want to listen to the conversation to catch. I'm sure you can see now that you're doing something to get to somewhere. So the purpose indicates what you are doing to the aim, the reason, which is the intent to achieve something. What is how to write the purpose statement? Remember, 3 basic tenets or basic elements. Always keep these in mind. When you are writing your title and your purpose statement, these 3 elements or tenets must always be there. What is your central issue that you are researching? We said COVID-19 in 2022, 2021, the effects of COVID-19, 2021. That's a central synonym of issue, COVID-19. The participants, we said to make it a title, we said high school learners. Then the research site, high school learners in Mokopane, Eastern Cape, in Zimbabwe, in Attridgeville, Prof Mvava. That's the site. The central phenomenon of issue, the participants, and the research site. And always remember to include your research methodology if you can. So, what does your study seek to investigate? This study seeks to explore purpose. It will reflect aim. This study seeks to explore blah, 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 blah. It indicates a purpose. It will reflect. It indicates the aim. So the purpose of this research is to do what? With the aim of doing something. So there's your aim. What is your ultimate intent if the study is conducted? My intention is, so ka Sepedi re tla re maikemisetso a ka ke ka seZulu inhloso yami. That's why they'll ask you, why did you do it? What were you focused? What were you aiming to get? So my intention was to develop, to highlight, to do what? You are doing something to get somewhere. You just don't do research for the sake of just doing it. So here are examples of to write the purpose statement and your aim. The purpose is to do this. This study will explore, as I indicated, it will reflect on, to indicate the aim, or the aims. This study aims to bring the experiences of and how to do what? No word strict limit, however, it should not be long. I suggest a paragraph in terms of writing your purpose and your aim. So according to Creswell, there's latest version, there's a 2016, 20, there are latest versions of Creswell. I suggest you look for Creswell and not use 2014. He gives you our recipe and says the statement to be written for your purpose statement, it must sound something like this. The purpose of this qualitative, the purpose of this quantitative, the purpose of this quasi, the purpose of this, you know, we can put a methodology. So the purpose of this qualitative study will be to do what? To explore, to discover, to understand, to describe the central phenomena for participants at wherever site. So there is an example. Look that he has there a methodology, he has there the purpose and the aim, he has there the three tenets that we spoke to, the central phenomenon of study, experiences of high school principals in terms of school management. So therefore, central phenomenon of study it's school management, high school management. He has the participants, high school principals. He has the setting, the site, rural. Can you see it? Three tenets, central phenomenon of study, school management, the participants, high school principals, and then the site, where is this going to be conducted? In a rural setting. Now, what is the aim? Is to bring to the fore the contextual factors affecting our participants regarding a central phenomena of study. So it could have seen, it reads now, the aim is to bring to the fore the contextual factors affecting rural, okay, it's the rural principal school management practices. So there you also have your tenets in the aim of the study as well. Methodology section, it covers research paradigm. So it's where interpretivism versus positivism versus pragmatism. Research approach. There's an I missing on pragmatism. Research approach. The qualitative, quantitative, or mixed method. Your research design. Other scholars call this approaches. Research techniques, research questions. In terms of research design slash research approaches, please listen and work closely here with your lecturers, because they will tell you which ones they prefer. You will also read books that will talk to different terminology. So that's what it is. It's a terminology. It just does not change the currency. It's just terminology. So stick to what you would have chosen. I prefer to call them designs, because approaches is something different in my mind. The paradigm is about the lens that you will be using to look at your research. Are you interpretivist? Everything makes sense and then you will interpret it. Are you constructivist? People construct. Are you grounded theory? Are you discourse analysis, etc., etc., etc.? And very important is for you to know who are the proponents of these theories as well. The next section, under your methodology, this is where we're talking about your research problem. Some call it the problem statement. Some call it research questions. Some call it the research hypothesis. It does not matter. Terminology does not change currency. What are you trying to answer? So if they ask you to put your question in a statement format, put it in a statement format, write a statement. That statement must not be more than 1 page. If they ask you to put it in a research question, your problem, then put it in a research question. Ask your question. Okay? If they ask you to do it in a hypothesis, do it in a hypothesis, depending on your methodology, of course, your approach. So don't be confused by people in saying, no, it should be a problem statement, the other say it should be a hypothesis and all that. Remember, stick to your protocol. Because at the end of the day, what is it that you are trying to answer or prove? So that's the question. After they've given you that topic, after you have now looked at it and said, this is my title, what's your problem? That's what you should be asking now yourself. Because from here on, once you know what your problem is, what is your puzzle, we now can know how to investigate or to find out or to explore that problem. I mean, I made an example in terms of COVID-19 and taking it to a title. And we said effects of COVID-19 on high school learners. Somebody can say effects of COVID-19 on internet use by high school learners. Aha, you see, same population, but different focus. The other one is broad. Can be looking into psychological effect, can be looking into behavioral effect, but this one decided to say internet use. So the problem, it might sound the same, but the problems are different because of which one decided to focus on another element, the other one decided to focus on another element. So again, the repetition, these problems, this research statement, this hypothesis must also bear the 3 basic tenets that you put when you wrote your title, when you wrote your purpose statement. What is the central phenomena of study or central issue? Who are your participants and where is the research site? So for the example that we're having for our slides, what are high school principals' school management experiences in rural setting? If you can look at this example, if you remove what are and then you take there, then you make it capital T. The high school principals, school management experiences in rural setting. There's your title. Can you see your title? And then we now had to put this title in a question format, and then we included the question terms or descriptors. What are the high school principals? School management experiences in a rural setting. So now there's a clear link between my title, my purpose statement, my aim, and my question. Remember, when you ask research questions, we ask high order questions: how, why, and what. We do not ask low order questions: do or is. Is Mamelodi Sundowns the best team in South Africa currently? There's an answer to that, whether you agree or you disagree with the statement. You already have an answer. So we don't ask low order questions. The problem with low order questions is that they already have an answer. The sub questions the same. They must be high order and not low order. So, qualitative research questions. Here's an example. They tell you, again, they must have focus on central phenomena of study, participants, as well as the site. Ask only few questions. Ask questions that are phrased in a neutral, exploratory from exploring language. Qualitative, we explore. Then number 3, the design, right? Questions, central questions and sub questions. Questions often change between concept paper and at proposal stage. So as you go along, you are allowed to do that because it's a living document. Again, 3 tenets. 3 rules for qualitative research. Begin with how and what. Do not say your study is qualitative, and speak about the why. Why is a quantitative? It implies cause and effect. Why? Because. Cause and effect. And that it clearly indicates comparative or something that is measurable. And again, do not use is or do. Again, list the central phenomena study and identify the participants. Here are a few examples that you can see, and then you can walk around to assist you. Always remember the 3 tenets. I'm always repeating these slides because I want you to understand that you cannot have a clear-cut research title, research purpose statement, research questions if your 3 tenets keeps on changing. Rules for quantitative, they begin with how, what, and why. Remember, what are the rules for qualitative? For quantitative, how, what, and why. Never, again, in quantitative, use the is or do. You can use the is or do in terms of your interview questions, for instance. There's nothing wrong with that, but not for your main research questions. Because of here, we're going to do work where we are now going to work with dependent and independent variables in quantitative. And if your study is about connections among multiple variables, you have to use the words relate or compare. Okay, so if it's about the relational, you have to use that word relate. How does independent variable relate to the dependent variable for whatever participants. If it's about relationships, you have to use that word. If it's about comparison, you have to use the word compare. What to what? Purpose, research question of the study and sampling. Here is the example that we've been working on. Look at the colors. You can see that the how, our research methodology, is covered by blue. Who, the participants, in red. What, the central phenomena, in green. And where, the rural setting, in orange or gold. So here is an example that I left for you to look at, read it, and engage it. I want you to look at it, and I want you to take your pens and state this research statement in a question format, and I want you to indicate the kind of research methodology you judge to be appropriate for collecting data for this question that you would have crafted. So the statement reads, the purpose of my study is to determine the attitudes of all high school science teachers in Zimbabwe towards the teaching of evolution in biology curriculum. Read it. Now, craft your question and tell us your thought to be appropriate data collection method. If this is your question, despite the fact that mine doesn't have a question mark, if this is your question, you are wrong. Because there's a key word that is missing in terms of your participants. And you can see it. It's all high school science teachers. All high school science teachers. Because that affects the methodology. Because the methodology of that purpose statement indicates quantitative method. And I'm going to be using a survey questionnaire because I'm talking about all high school science teachers. If I leave it at the level of that question, the wrong question that I crafted, it actually speaks to qualitative, not quantitative anymore, because of the high school science teachers can be 2 in Zimbabwe, can be 3. And it also speaks to that mismatch because Zimbabwe is large, it's huge. So maybe I would have needed to specify more on the site, where in Zimbabwe. So it's problematic, the question. So therefore, remember to read each and every word when you write your purpose statement and when you turn them into a question. Don't fall into the trap. Moving along, the research design. Mutun says that it's a plan, it's a blueprint on how you're going to do your research. So therefore, it's a plan, it's a blueprint on how you're going to do research. It's a framework that you're going to use. According to Cohen and Mannion, and Creswell says it's procedures of collecting data. This is a plan of the blueprint of a clinic. You can see where the doors are, where the lecture rooms are. This is a floor plan of a hotel room in Protea. I can't remember, was this Peter Marisburg? But you can see the floor plan. This is a ground plan of Unisa Mokolnek. it still looks this way, even after COVID. So they tell you, you are here. So if you want to go to the blue building at the bottom, there is a map there and it shows you the road to take so that you can go to the blue building. Should you decide to go on the opposite direction, you will never reach the blue building. So research plan, research design is a blueprint. It's the same thing as these maps, these floor plans. This one, they tell you, in case of fire, follow the arrows to their nearest exit. Should you decide, in case of fire in this hotel, you go against the arrows, you will suffocate from smoke. So research design is about this as well. Give us your floor plan, give us your map. How are you going to go around collecting data? So there's few things for consideration for you before you even say, this is how I'm going to collect my data. Your epistemological orientation. Who are you, where are you coming from, and where and how do you see the truth? Who are you writing this for, this research? What skills do you need? Because you cannot say, I'm going to do a survey and you've never did a survey and yet you still need training, okay? And make sure that your research problem is matched with your approach. Like we did, there is the example of Zimbabwe and science teachers. Your design, we know, qualitative and quantitative, they've been there for a very long time in terms of approaches. We know what are qualitative, exploring, as we said earlier on, understanding phenomena, data collection in form of interviews, words, whereas in quantitative, it's about explaining or predicting, data collection instruments located or developed by prior study, developed prior to study, deductive approaches, and all that. Here are key verbs that will help you to state your research questions in terms of the correct terminology. For instance, now know from now on that when you are doing quantitative, we are expecting to use words like factors, determinants, relationships, causes, effects, whereas in qualitative, we're talking exploring, generating, developing, creating, meaning, personal experiences. So the design, the approaches, 3 approaches: quantitative, qualitative, mixed method research. Various methods, methodology, approaches, various methods, case study, survey, ethnography, as we said, and what are the techniques you will be using? Is it observation? Is it focus group? Is it questionnaires? This map shows you a beautiful picture in terms of how to limit and direct yourself. It tells you, we'll start on the cloud blue, the blue part of your sketch. It says the methodology. You see, this author, Ngulube P, calls what I call approaches, he calls them methodology. And if you go down to the lighter green, what I call methods, he calls them approach or design. Can you see? So do not allow yourself to be confused. Look at Ngulube, take Ngulube as he is. Look at Tabane, take Tabane as he is. Look at Creswell the same way. Because books differ, just have a clear-cut understanding. They are not confused, or they are not contradicting each other. They are not. It's a matter of the preference and how they put their point across. So you have to read literature and understand where the authors are coming from. And they tell you there that if you are using quantitative, these are your, in terms of Gulube, your approaches. Okay? So you cannot say quantitative and you take a method that is in qualitative. What is a quantitative study, but it's an ethnography. It does not work like that. Because ethnography, we know, is a qualitative, and there they show you there. And the techniques, of course, at the lower part, you need to choose the ones that are appropriate. For instance, you cannot say you're going to use a survey for your qualitative study, and you say it's only 5 people. That's not a survey, that's a questionnaire. This is just a repetition of what we said. The most important part that I want to focus on here is the last column on your right, data analysis. How are you going to analyze your data? There's computer software to do it, like Atlas TI in Vivo. There are other new strategies like interactive qualitative analysis. Are you going to do color coding? Are you going to develop themes? There's color coding. You're taking different colors, like you've seen how I color coded the slide on the titles, purpose statement, and the questions. Are going to develop themes, again, computer, statistical data analysis, or packages that are out there. For qualitative, we have Atlas TI in Vivo, there's lots. For quantitative, we have Excel and SPSS, there's lots as well. Here is a slide that simply makes everything nice and put in a columns for you to be able to see which method goes with which type of sample size, data collection strategies, and where it is focusing. At the end of the day, this is what you will have. This is what you will have. I hope I'm not lost. Let me just check something. Okay, still secured. Let me continue. Where is my slideshow? Slideshow. I'm just trying to connect once more because I had the sound as if I was off. There we go. So at the end of the day, this is how your organogram will look like. Your title, your research questions, methodology, data collection techniques, data analysis, and your findings. So now there is the element of what are the research aims and your objectives? The last part, well, some lecturers and supervisors prefer your aims of your study or your objectives to be at the beginning, but it doesn't matter as such. Let's just speak to that component. What does it cover? In terms of the aim is your broad statement of design. Remember, intention, as we spoke about the purpose statement and the aim, this is the very same aim. So you're going to go there and cut that aim and copy it and put it here in terms of your aims and objectives of the study, because it's about the aspiration of your expectations, where you want to go to. Whereas an objective, it's a step-by-step indication of how you're going to get to your aim. Aim is broad, objective step-by-step. So if your aim was to get married in 2023, there are a few things that you need to do, as you would know. Well, first and foremost, one would say, if I was to ask you, we're in face-to-face mode, one would say, I don't know, you need to get a partner because you cannot get married to yourself. But one would say, oh, okay, but before you get a partner, you need to do certain things. You need to go and meet that partner. So before you go and meet that partner, you need to do certain things. You need to know where to meet that partner. Before you know where to go to meet that partner, you need to do certain things. You need to save money to be able to put petrol, or to be able to take a taxi, or to be able to buy turkeys, whatever it is. There are steps that you need to do, and those little steps are the ones that ultimately they got you to your aim of getting married in 2023. So, but if you were to, it was about to attain, forget 2018, your master's or your doctorate in 2023, forget 2018, you needed to do certain things as well. You needed to read on the topic of interest before you join UNISA in terms of your master's next year when you are doing your study. And you needed to acquire a relevant material. You need to make time to read. Then once you do that, according to UNISA, after you selected that, you save money, you go to the internet, because we register online, you now put in that proposal sketch of about 2 to 3 paragraphs or so. So there are steps for you to get to where you wanted to get. So aim can be phrased in a research. Therefore, an objective indicates how the aim is going to be indicated step by step, who is going to do what, and what are the costs of attaining that, and what tools do you need. So simply put, an objective is important to indicate the fulfillment of the aims by focusing on who, how, when, where, and why. So they should be concise, interrelated, be realistic, be indicators of how you can approach your literature. They should not be too vague, repeat each other in different terms, just be a list of things related to your topic, contradict your methods. Just a list of things. When you mention your aim and your objectives, each and every one that you mention, it must be answered in your finalization of your study, your conclusion, your findings and your conclusion. So you cannot mention an aim and you cannot mention an objective of that aim and not answer it. You will fail in your master's and your PhD. So remember, what was the aim, the purpose statement of our example? Qualitative study is to explore the experiences of high school principals in terms of school management in rural settings, with the aim. The aim is to bring to the fore the contextual factors affecting rural principal school management practices. So the objectives of that aim, the aim is to, remember, that's why I have it written as a standalone as well. The aim is to bring to the fore the contextual factors affecting rural principal school management practices. So what are my objectives? Number one, what are the highest qualifications of high school or of the principals? Because I know, if I know their highest qualifications, I'll start to know what type of principles I'm dealing with here. Because here we're talking they are school management practices. Some might have MBA, some might have only junior degree, some might have a diploma, the old diplomas, because it's in a rural setting. Some might have. So the moment I know what are the qualifications, I'm starting to get a picture of the types of principles that we have. Do they have any management training, and where do they have it? Do they only have training in Department of Education? Like I said, others might have done MBA. So the moment I know this, I can start to have and answer the questions for my study, and so forth and so forth. We're talking about management practices. What is a staff complement? There's a difference between a principal who would manage 15 and the other one who would manage 38. So my objectives, as you can see, the more I answer these questions of my objectives, I answer my aim. I get to my aim, and therefore I'm answering my research question. What are high school principals, school management practices? The last sections is about the significance of your study. So why are you doing the study? What is the value? What are the additions that this study will bring? What is the value that this study is going to contribute? It's about the capital. So who is going to benefit from this study? Remember the significance of your study. Why do you propose to do it? There's also the element of trustworthiness, qualitative studies, and validity in quantitative studies. Recently, when you read, you'll see that authors are now using these two terms interchangeably. Research is fluid, more especially when you read the mixed method research, right? So stick to what you and your supervisor will agree on or your lecturer. But for qualitative, is trustworthiness, validity is for quantitativeness. So here we're talking criteria for evaluating this research. The same question will give the same result. The credibility or the trustworthiness of conclusions drawn from your data. There's also the issue of internal and external validity, to which the conclusion can be generalized to a large or to a small population. Internal validity, it did, and then external, it also covered what it intended to do, and it is as it said it will do. Documents and procedures to be followed. How did you validate your data? Did you go for member checking? Did you triangulation? Did you do internal audit? Did you check that internal and external validity? So it's all this about how do you verify and make us trust your study, the validity. You did what you said you set out to go and do. Limitations and assumptions, there's a difference. Of course, your limitation is about, well, I see limitations as opportunities to highlight any weakness in your study. And my take is the moment you can see a weakness, so therefore make sure that you nip it so that your study can be stronger. So weakness of studies can be in methodology, like we indicated there, an example of a purpose statement of all high school and a question that does not speak to that. It's a methodological flaw, that one, right? The research itself, the way it was conducted. You are doing your honors and you are saying you're going to do a survey, you're going to send 500 questionnaire. Honors, 500 questionnaire, it's a lot. Feasibility. So therefore, you're going to give a study that is rushed. So it limits your study. The assumptions are all those preconceived ideas or conclusions, foregone conclusions that you have are relating to your study or you undertake. And it's better for you to say, to put them out there, say, these are my assumptions about my study, so that we can see when we read where you're coming from. The delimitation is a conscious demarcation of what you are not going to study. We said COVID-19 of high school learners. We didn't say primary school learners. So I'm not interested in that in terms of demarcation of population. I said COVID-19 in 2021. I'm not interested in COVID-19 in 2020 or 2022. So this is where I'm going to be focusing on the effects of COVID. So it's a deliberate demarcation. And there is, of course, the conclusion, your ethical considerations, and the references that you have to undertake and use. Please, in terms of references, make sure that they are not older than 5 years. Be as current as possible. So remember that the purpose of this presentation is to give a guide on research proposal writing with the aim of assisting you as a participant to gain proficiency in research proposal writing components. However, this is a limitation of my presentation. It will not make you a proficient research proposal writer. It is your activity after you have engaged with this presentation that will assist in proficiency in research proposal writing. So it's all in your hands. Thank you, class.